What do you know about Olympia so far? What do you know about the sanctuary at Olympia? I don't mean exactly what I told you towards the very end of the hour last time. We'll get to that in a second. This is too high. Hold on. But what do you know about it prior to what I started to tell you last time? We're going to do a lot of chatting back and forth today, so get ready. It's a Pan-Hellenic site, meaning what? What does that mean? You don't know what it means that it's a Pan-Hellenic site? Is that true? Do you not know what it means that it's a Pan-Hellenic site? What does it mean? I promise not to overreact.
It's the temple of Zeus. That's the area that's the
There is a temple of Zeus. All right, but what does it mean to be Pan-Hellenic? What does it mean? How good that we're having this conversation. Oh my God, what does it mean to be a Pan-Hellenic site? Oh my God. Katie, where have I gone wrong? I'm dying here, you guys. What does it mean to be a Pan-Hellenic site? No. No, it's not Helen with one L. It's Hellenic, Hellenic. What's Hellenic? It means Greek. And so what is Pan-Hellenic? All the Greeks, like, yeah, you can all beat up on him later. Like, Pan, Athenea is all Athens. Pas, Pan, is the Greek prefix for all in toto. Pandemic, you know the word pandemic? That's an epidemic, that's pan, all. It goes everywhere. That's where that word comes from. So Pan-Hellenic is all Greece, all Greece. So what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean, do you think? What does that mean that it's Pan-Hellenic? I don't mean that it means all Greek. I mean, so what? What does that mean?
That it's like the...
Oh, this is going to be a bad day. Oh my God. Okay. What does that mean? Yeah. It means that it's a sanctuary that's not connected to a single city. It's an all-Greek sanctuary. It's like, I don't know, the Vatican, right? Vatican is its own thing. It's not part of Italy. It's its own little country, sort of. So a Pan-Hellenic sanctuary is a sanctuary that's not a city sanctuary. So the Acropolis in Athens, that's a city sanctuary. It's the sanctuary of the city of Athens. A Pan-Hellenic sanctuary is for everybody. When does the Pan-Hellenic sanctuary at Olympia become a sanctuary? When does the sanctuary at Olympia become a sanctuary? Laura. When does it become, okay, let's back up. Can't be 470, 460, because what's the big claim to fame of the sanctuary at Olympia? What happens here? Games. When do the games start? 776. What century is that? 8th. So there must already be a sanctuary here in the 8th century. Any evidence for a sanctuary earlier than that? Yes? What is that evidence? What is that evidence? You don't know? What is that evidence? Yeah.
Okay, wasn't one burned down?
We are back in the Iron Age. So we're in the 8th century BCE. Stay with me here, folks. And so we have literary evidence that there are games. starting in the 8th century, 776, first quarter of the 8th century BC. Therefore, there must already be a sanctuary here. It's already games. Is there evidence? Well, so is there any archaeological evidence that there's activity here? Is this just a story? Very nice story. How would we know that there was any activity here? What sort of evidence do we find at early sanctuaries?
There are altars.
No, that's a good idea. Well, there actually is a big altar here, but since you guys haven't met it yet, I don't know how you would know that. But what was the evidence on the Acropolis in Athens that it was already starting to be used as a sanctuary? Dedications, what sort? Stuff that you would have won, not from the Olympic Games, but from funeral games in Athens. And what sort of stuff would that be?
Pottery and statuary.
Different pottery, although how would you know that the pottery on the Acropolis came from winning a game? What do we know? What do we have from the Acropolis in Athens that we can for sure know is the prize of a game?
I think looking at the artwork, it showed like what the.
This I'm talking about the geometric period. So early Iron Age. We're in the 8th century. What do we have from the 8th century Athenian Acropolis that would allow us to deduce that games were played in the city of Athens, prizes were won, and people then gave those prizes as dedications, because it would be the dedications that would tell us that it was a sanctuary. We already knew there were games, but that doesn't mean that there's a sanctuary. So what's the evidence that there's a sanctuary? What sort of dedications did we have on the Athenian Acropolis in the Iron Age? Yes, the bronze tripods. Bronze tripods. So we have fragments of bronze tripods from Olympia from the 9th and the 8th centuries BCE. That is the archaeological evidence on the ground that it was a place of competition. Because those bronze tripods are not really household objects. It's not like you can mistake it. Whereas a pot, you see, somebody could have just gone up there and had a picnic, and they left their cooking pot or their plate or their jug behind. What doesn't mean that it has anything to do with the game. A bronze tripod now with a big cauldron, not so good for anything except showing off. Therefore, if you find it up there, now the games weren't up on the Acropolis, so if you find it up in the Acropolis, it means that it was dedicated there. If it was dedicated there, it was dedicated to somebody. It's going to sound great on the podcast. And that would have to be a deity. Therefore, it would be a sanctuary. When we find evidence of bronze tripods at Olympia from the 9th and the 8th centuries, we know, thanks to archaeology, and not just the stories, that there was a sanctuary here, there were games, and we are then more inclined to trust literary sources that tell us that in the year 776, the games began. Who was the mythological founder of the games? Louder. Heracles. So you're looking at the great territory of the sanctuary of Zeus at Olympia. That's what you've been admiring here, while hoping I don't call on you. And the Alpheus River flows to one side. There are two big rivers that demarcate the territory of the sanctuary of Zeus, the Alpheus and the Claudius. I have a reason for telling you that, and soon you will find out what it is. Okay, what happened, fast forward, from the Iron Age, what happened in the early part of the 5th century between Elis and, now you see, is it me? Do you think it's me? Do you think it's just when I hold things? Elis and Pisa. What happened between them? Maybe I'll just hold both pointers and then I'll use it. Sorry about that. What happened between Elis and Pisa? What happened?
Elis conquered Pisa.
Elis conquered Pisa. Euless conquered Pisa. Do you remember when? (470). Early 5th century, 470. And so Euless conquered Pisa. So what? So Pisa down here on the right. You see, I've started having to put boxes on things because I cannot trust that any pointer is going to actually work. I wonder if there's an extra battery in here. Yeah, here, Katie, see if you can. I don't know if AA. This is probably AAA, but give it a try. What happened? What happened? Why? What's Pisa's claim to fame? Is that what I'm asking you? Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. What's Pisa's claim to fame? Yes. They controlled the Olympic Games. Right. They were just a little nothing place, just a tiny little village. Just so happened it was the little village that was closest to the territory of Olympia, the actual site. So it was a little bit of a default thing. They were the closest ones, so they controlled. They were, not the most busy and proactive owners of the games. They sort of maintained the sanctuary and they took in the revenue. And there was this old temple in the sanctuary, temple to Hera, which is weird, since the sanctuary is to Zeus. And nobody really knows why that is, so don't ask me. I don't know why it is. There was a great big altar, however, to Zeus in the sanctuary, huge. And a lot of those figurines are found, the early figurines are found burned and buried at the bottom of the altar. So as you can see, Olympia is very, very close to Pisa. Elis is a little bit further away. Here's the Alpheus. Here's the Claudius. And Elis conquers Pisa, and with that gets then control not only of Pisa, but of Olympia and all the revenues that come with running a major athletic competition that is pan-Hellenic, meaning that Greeks come from all over the place, and not just the mainland of Greece, but from East Greece and from West Greece, a.k.a. Italy. They're AAAs, yeah. Thanks. And so suddenly Elis has a whole bunch of money, and what they decide, forgot about that, hi Elis. And what they decide to do with it is build a new temple. So the temple of Hera, the old temple, is here. Just like Delphi, Olympia, being a Pan-Hellenic sanctuary, had ostentatious architectural dedications, also known as treasuries. So we looked in detail at a couple of the treasuries at Delphi, Siphnian and Athenian. This little cluster that looks like storage sheds over here, those are where the treasuries are at Olympia. They are very uninspiring. We aren't going to talk about any of them. They're all on the way to the stadium. The stadium is here. So the big altar of Zeus, the old altar, was in this area of the sanctuary, and then in this great big flat area, the new tenants, the new owners of the games, the Eleans, built this temple. All right. What is the story of this pediment? This is the front of the temple, the east pediment. So you walk in to the sanctuary, you walk up to the temple. This will be the only sculpture you'll see, because the other sculpture is either on the back end or inside. So there's no competition. You get to view this. So we have main characters. Who's this guy? That's Zeus, right? That's Zeus, and to either side of Zeus are two fellows, Pelops and Oenomaus. The head of Zeus, so sadly, is gone. But we can tell from the angle of his neck that he is turning slightly to his right. And that means that the guy who's on this side is the favored guy, the guy who's going to win. Yep.
Why were they looking the opposite directions the time?
Well, here's the problem with the east pediment of the Temple of Zeus. We have all the figures, and as you can see, they're all freestanding. And when there was an earthquake in the Middle Ages and everybody fell down, stuff got jumbled around. So something like 540 articles, books, and studies have been done trying to figure out what order to put all these figures back up on the temple. And there are really a lot of, obviously. And the problem is that we have a primary source that talks about the arrangement of the figures on the east pediment. And that primary source is the ancient traveler Pausanias, who went around and visited places in the 2nd century AD. The Temple of Zeus was about 700 years old then, but it was standing and in very good shape. And Pausanias apparently had some kind of tour guide who was telling him everything, just the way you might have today if you go to Greece. And Pausanias stood in front of the east pediment and said, and I think that Mr. Ashmole he has a very lovely explanation of exactly how the problem here. Let me see if I can find it. Pausanias, in his guidebook to Greece, describes the pediments, and however brief these descriptions are, they are precious to us, because they are all we have. We will avoid becoming involved in the discussion which has been going on for 80 years and is not yet settled, about the exact arrangement and identity of some of the figures, because I think we can get at what we want without doing so, but it would be wrong to ignore the problems. I will show you, and if I can show you in a few seconds what the main difficulty is simply by giving a literal translation of Pausanias without any explanation, and asking you how to interpret it. Quote, Mr. Pausanias, 2nd century AD, around the year 160, looking up at the pediment of the Temple of Zeus. As for what is in the pediment, he says, there is a contest with horses between Pelops and Oenomaus about to begin, and preparation for the race is being made by both. There is a statue of Zeus right in the middle of the pediment. Oenomaus is on the right of Zeus with a helmet on his head, and by him his wife Sterope, one of the daughters of Atlas. After him, blah, 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 blah. On the left from Zeus is Pelops and Hippodamia and the charioteer. Now, what's the problem with this apparently crystalline description for us?
It's like your perception of Zeus looking at his right and left, or it's like you looking up there at his right.
Yeah, that's right. We cannot know if Pausanias means Pausanias' right and left or Zeus's right and left. That's the problem. So the best drawing I have, the drawing that I have is correct, but the setup in the museum, which is what this photograph is from, it doesn't match the drawing. It's one of the earlier, I can't remember exactly how many different articles there are about this, but there are hundreds. So that's a long answer to your question. You're going to see the exact same thing when we go to the west pediment. They aren't going to match, so now you don't have to worry about trying to make them work. But the drawings that you have in the handout, those are right. Well, I say right. That's what I think they are. I agree with Mr. Ashmole, who's my hero. He has many explanations.
Pelops be though the younger, unbearded, I think he's unbearded figure, and then Oenomaus be the older guy with the beard and the drapery.
Right. So this is Pelops.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because this is the museum setup,
Yeah.
which is wrong. I mean, in terms of, I think it's wrong. In terms of the drawing, yes, it doesn't agree with the drawing. but it's okay. We have the subject. Okay, so what's the story? What's the story here? What happened? So I briefly told you guys this at the end of the hour. Let's see who was listening. What's going on here? Here. What's the story? Okay. What's the story?
Mouse is the king, and there was a prophecy that his son-in-law would kill him.
Enemaus is the king. There's a prophecy that his son-in-law would kill him.
And so he decided that in order to have somebody marry his daughter, they'd have to beat him in a chariot race. And he'd always let them get ahead and go behind him and kill him. And,
So nice. Super. Did y'all get that? Why is this not really such a great story for the east pediment, the main front of the Temple of Zeus at Olympia? Come up with a couple reasons why it's not a good story, and come up with a couple reasons why it is a good story. Chat, start.
So do you think that he favors Pelops because he's facing him and he's the victor? That makes sense then, yeah. Because I was like, well, they shouldn't be facing away from him.
Right.
But yeah, that makes more sense if he was the victor.
Oh, okay. What it says here.
All right. What's the reason why this is not such a terrific choice of subject matter? Oh, so you don't think it has as much to do with Zeus as it should? It's not a story where Zeus is a protagonist? That's a very interesting point. That's a very interesting point. You know, the problem with, well, I'm not going to put it like that, but if you think about it, if you think about the subject matter of architectural sculpture, here's how you have to regard it. It's like a billboard. So, you know, you drive down the road, you see a billboard. Somebody wants to tell you something. That's why they put it up very large. That's what architectural sculpture is. So, the Greeks like the gods just fine, but who they're really interested in is themselves. They're interested in people. The gods are foils for people stories. Why? Because, as has been pointed out very accurately by some of you in the past, the gods care about us. Why? Because that's what shows how great we are, that the gods care about us. And we are so interesting, and we have this very interesting history. And back in the day, the gods and us, we were like this. We were very close. And so all of the sculptures on the Temple of Zeus actually are, the stories are related to Zeus. The characters are related to Zeus. But, you know, if you were going to put a story with Zeus, I mean with Zeus actually acting, what are all the stories we know about Zeus?
He sleeps around.
He sleeps around. That's it. That's what we know about Zeus. He's Mr. Casanova. He's down there picking up this nymph or this lady or whatever. That's all he does. And then he gets in trouble with Hera when he goes home. That's it. So not so great for a pediment. So in that way, actually, this is a good story for the temple of Zeus because it's a son of Zeus, and because the victory of it is because of Zeus.
Maybe not a good story for the Petter because he loves had to cheat. We don't want cheating in the game.
Probably not. Yeah. So it's not like what? Why would you have this story when the way that the victory was won was by foul play? Because as part of the result of the cheating, the world's worst family curse. It does not get worse than what happened to the house of Pelops in Greek mythology. Very, very bad, like for generations. Just one bad thing after another. So it's what kind of story? Yeah, it's a warning. It's a cautionary tale. It's a story with a moral.
Just one question. Wasn't Nina Mouse also cheating too? I mean,
Uh-huh.
you can't really like kill somebody in a chariot race. It's kind of a dick move.
It is. It's just, yeah. Yes, Enemaus is a foul guy, totally, in all senses of that word. And so both of these guys are just lame. Neither one wins fair and square. It's also strange, because look at this pediment. Nothing is happening. What is up with that? What is the mood? You're standing, looking up at this temple, at this pediment. They're standing, looking out. Like, let's do something here, fellas. Nothing is happening. What is the mood and why? You might have a fast chat. Mood and why.
The circular building that's next to the temple here, that's the Philippines, right? And that was
That's-
Alexander's dedication.
It's Alexander's dad, and there are these little golden ivory, well, we don't know how little they were, but golden ivory statues of the whole family.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I remember I saw it up there. And I was like, oh shit, what was that? I'm just trying to recall.
All right, what's the mood and why? All the way there in the back. Right, it's like preparation. They're mentally preparing. Is it calm? Who said yes and why? Why? Kind of calm and neutral all the time in the world?
I think it seems pretty tense. Because probably Pelops knows that 13 dead before him were all killed. He knows that he's rigged the race kind of. He's kind of nervous about how that's going to turn out. It just seems like everybody's really tense for this about to start. It kind of emphasizes the whole competition, competitive nature.
What do you have to know to feel that this is tense? So we have two different points of view. How do we account for that? What do you have to know? The story. You have to know the story.
There's 13 other guys that died trying to win this race against Animaeus. So there's this history of the guys dying prior to this one.
Right. And you would have to know all of that. And anybody coming to Olympia would have known. They would have known the story. And who are the likeliest people to be thinking about this episode when they're standing in the sanctuary of Zeus at Olympia? The competitors. Anybody here been in a race? been in any sort of competition, you're probably not so calm. You might look calm, so that the other people who are at the starting blocks think, why does she look so calm when I'm so nervous? You might look calm, but you probably wouldn't feel calm. So first you know the story, you Greeks, you Panhellenes, and then you're already nervous. You're here to compete. And you walk in to the altus and you look up at this enormous temple and these 10-foot high sculptures in the east pediment. And if you weren't already kind of nervous, this might make you more nervous. So it's very still, and deliberately so. So still that you're left with your own thoughts. There's no action to distract you. As was very accurately noted, the two main male figures, Enemaus and Pelops, one is slightly older than the other, and you can tell that by the beard and the physique. And in fact, you can tell different ages of all of the figures in the east pediment of the Temple of Zeus. So these are the corners. These are the corners of the east pediment. And the pediment is, so the temple is facing east. And so this is at the figure that is on the top here is at the north end, and the figure that's on the bottom is at the south end. And it is the Alpheus River that flows on the south and the Claudius River that flows on the north. Which is older? Which of these two characters is older? These two river gods. Listen, I am not making this up, that these are two. I know these look like guys. Why am I calling them rivers? What is my problem? That is because Pausanias calls them rivers. And so we can call them rivers too. He has the same problem with the right and the left thing. But I, again, here follow Ashmole. So which is older? Which is older and why? Have a little chat. I love this temple so much. I could have an entire class on this temple.
I really liked driving back to my forest from Olympia and stuff, and there's just like so much movement to their expression on their faces and stuff. It was awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah.
I really liked all the little mini figurines that they found.
Oh, I know.
I was just like in awe. It was like this huge display of them.
I know. I have a great slide of that. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, who's older and why? You and the plaid. So this guy certainly is leaner of torso. Mr. Claudius is leaner of torso. What about his expression and his pose?
I was going to say the same thing if he was skinnier, but
Yeah, he's right.
seems like a very youthful pose.
Because? What's the mood of Claudius, the river Claudius? What's mood? He's looking out. Is he like ready to fall asleep or something? He is surveying. I agree with you. He is surveying it attentively. What else?
He seems really anxious and excited for it to start, whereas the southern one was more relaxed. Like, yeah, I've seen this before.
You see that? Does that look like that to you? Because the Claudius, he's all taut and expectant. He's very, very interested. This is kind of new to him. He's staring straight ahead. Yeah.
It's really the right question. How do we know that one's older than the other?
How do you mean? How do we?
If I were to look at both pictures, I wouldn't tell you, oh, one of them's obviously older. I look at both of them and don't see that.
Well, what I'm trying to get you guys to do is focus on some of the small differences that the sculptors have used here. Yeah, these are two young guys. So, I mean, it's not like one of them is 50, but one of them, but they are not they're not matched. I mean, it's not like they're twins. If you would, I mean, it's so sad that we don't have Mr. Alpheus's head, but even without it, you wouldn't think that, you might think they were brothers, but you wouldn't think they were twins. You would think one is a little bit older than the other, even if it was just a couple of years. And so I'm asking you why. How have the sculptors and designers here conveyed that one of these is slightly older than the other? So we've got a leaner torso on the Claudius. We've got this very eager, engaged, excited demeanor of the Claudius. The Alpheus is leaning on his hand. He's more relaxed. You can tell. I mean, he's obviously in good shape. The guy works out, okay, but or just doesn't eat very much. But he's not sort of straining at the bit. Top guy doesn't have a beard. Of course, we don't know if the Alpheus did, but yes, the top guy, the Claudius is clean shaven. As it happens, the Alpheus is the big river. The Claudius feeds into it. It's a smaller river. The Alpheus is the older and the larger river, and the Claudius is the smaller, more churny river. The Alpheus, which I showed you in that initial big view, is that long, lazy ribbon that demarcates one end of the Altus. There's a groomsman right down next to the Claudius River, and you see him here in two views. About how old do you think this person is? About how old do you think he is? You can give. I mean, you don't have to give me an exact age, but put him in some ballpark.
Young.
Like elementary school, junior high, high school. Let's put him into one of those categories. High school? Junior high? Why? Just to be difficult? Why? Uh-huh. Yeah, he's affectless. What is the biggest thing that happens to you when you become a teenager? You're suddenly very aware of how you look to other people. When you're a kid, you just sit any old way. You just sit down, right? Yes, he has absolutely no bodily hair. Of course, we don't. There's always the paint thing, but it's almost certain that he had no bodily hair. Yeah, that's true.
Well, I don't know, it's just almost junior high boys do not have well-defined pectorals. So
Right.
I feel like you have to get the teenager that's reasonable musculature. Also, like, toes maybe slightly contrived so that he's the right height impediment, keep all the way on the ground.
Oh yes, his pose is certainly absolutely. His pose is absolutely locked in. You're right about his body. There's no or very, very little baby fat, right? So he's not 10 or 11 or 12 probably, just sort of thinking back. But he doesn't have. Think about the Claudius, right? We saw all his ribcage. So, I mean, to me, he looked like he was about, 16, 17. This fellow looks a little bit younger than him. And you see him, he's right next to the Claudius in the pediment. So you can imagine looking up. This, in contrast, he's got pectorals, but he's a little bit of fleshiness still about him. He doesn't have baby fat, but he's not totally taut the way that the Claudius is. So he is a little bit different. This is, yeah, isn't that great? This is from Ashmole. So great. So I just had scanned it straight from him. and this young girl is 14 years old, and she was a competitive swimmer. And he saw this picture of her in a newspaper, and being as how he devoted his life to studying the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, he immediately thought of this figure from the pediment. And so you have this picture, and you see this very natural, casual, easy pose, very effortless. She's not thinking about how she looks. She's not posing. She's just sitting there. And you see also how real, how amazingly faithful the sculptors have managed to evoke the stone. And you see something else that's really beautiful in this figure, this little guy who almost certainly is a young teen, like around 14, because his role is as a groomsman. And so he's one of those youths. You may remember the Kiji vase, way back. The Kiji vase, where it had the little guys on the horses leading the horses to the older youths who were doing the hunting. And this kid is one of those guys. So he's a little groomsman. He's a little helper aide. And look at his hands sitting, and his legs actually also. No, this is not working. Sitting on the cloth. You can see how fantastically the sculptors have contrasted the skin, which is very supple and smooth, and the folds of the cloth. Obviously, that was something that they were interested in. Next to the groomsman is this fellow. How old is he? Old. Could be my age. About 60. About 60, he could even be older than that, although who knows what life expectancy actually was in Greece. That was probably about it. And why? What do you see that tells you that this guy is a little bit older? He's going bald? He's flabby. He has that, flabby old people skin that sort of just hangs there, right? Sort of wrinkles. And look at his hair. It's not only that he's going bald. What is the problem with his hair? Or problem's not really the right word. What is the challenge that he would have had if he was actually interested in how his hair looks? It's I don't know about stiff, but it doesn't. It has no body. It has no life to it. It's kind of lank. It's just laying very, very thinly against his head. If you see a older person who doesn't do anything to their hair, so that's pretty common that it starts to get just very thin, and it doesn't really have much life to it. So he has this poochy skin, and he's balding, and his hair, and also his face. He's kind of fleshy in the face, and his eyes are getting kind of poochy. What's his problem? What's his emotional state? What's his emotional state? He's worried. How do you know? Yeah, he's conveying emotion. I mean, he's clearly worried. What's he worried about? Where's he looking? Where's he looking? What's he worried about? I'm pointing to you. Yeah. What's he looking at? He is certainly not looking directly at the back of the horses and being worried. What's he looking at? Where is his gaze going? What? What's the question? Oh, piece of the chariot. What's he looking at? He's looking at the central group. So he's looking at the main characters. Why does he have this expression on his face? What's the matter? Probably so. He can be identified with the character that we know from the story, who is the family seer. Everybody should have one. Every family should have a seer. That would be so convenient. Although you perhaps might not want somebody like this standing around all the time looking very worried about what's going to happen to you, ultimately, or your progeny. But that's what he is. So in case you were thinking, as you stood in front of the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, looking up at this and thinking, everybody looks very relaxed, this guy would tip you off that that was probably not the right read. So, all right, this has made you very, very nervous. You're standing in front of these pediment of the Temple of Zeus. You're thinking about, cheating and family tragedy and generations of despair. This is not good. So you walk around to the other side and you look up and you see this completely different scene. This completely different scene is quite obviously a battle between guys who have the body of a horse. Who are they? Centaurs. And Lapis, because Lapis are the canonical fighter of centaurs. The story is the wedding feast of a young man named Pirithous, who happened to be a grandson of Zeus. And Pirithous lived in Thessaly. In fact, he was a friend of Theseus. He lived in Thessaly, where centaurs lived, although centaurs in Greek mythology also were known to roam the mountainous areas of Achaia, which is the province right next to Elis. So there were centaurs thought to reside not too far from Olympia. But the famous story is that Pirithous had a wedding. He was getting married to Diademea, and they invited the centaurs because the Lapis and the centaurs got along and were very close. And the centaurs were like family friends. But the thing about the centaurs is that when they get a little liquor in them, they go nuts. So what happened at the wedding was, there was stuff to drink, and they go crazy, and they try to seize the bride, Diademea, and make off with her and some of the other gals. And so the Lapiths are suddenly thrown into action to defend Diademea and the rest of the ladies. And in the center, this is Apollo, son of Zeus, and overseer of, you probably are not supposed to imagine him down in the middle of the wedding party, but as a presence helping out, a kind of aura helping out the Lapiths. Let's take a closer look at some parts of this pediment. The action is intense. Where it is completely still on the east pediment, it's all in motion on the west. There is running and lunging and lots of fighting, and there is also valiant resistance. So here, for example, one of these groups, and the sculpting of this was complicated. This centaur is just trying to make off with this Lapith woman who is not going so easily. She's giving him a good elbow to the head, and she's clearly resisting, pulling back as he tries to. This is the handy thing about being a centaur, is that you have everything you need to abduct somebody. You have the hands for grabbing them, and then you've got the horsey back for putting them on top and going off. So he's trying to swing Diademea onto his back, and she is really pushing back. And there is on the other side of Apollo another group there's another Lapith woman who's also she's sort of like using her hands and fingers and nails to dig into the centaur, who is about to be hit by an axe from this figure, who's almost certainly Theseus, who is one of the people who was invited to the wedding. And you see the expression on the faces of the Lapiths. What is that expression? Are they in the thick of a battle? How would you characterize the expression on the faces of the Lapiths, all the way in the back? Characterize the expression. How are the Lapiths? How do you regard them as they are fighting?
The character on the left.
Or any of them. But yeah, we can look at the character on the left.
So the gentleman here looks like he's just kind of motionless, or like the centaur looks like he's like breathing.
The centaur is reacting. He is in pain. Yeah? Now, these guys are fighting. They're exerting themselves. Here's Theseus right here. Does he look under duress? Is he losing? Is he worried? Is he panting? None of the above.
Seems kind of resolute. Just knows what he needs to do.
Very, very steadfast, resolute. Not emotional, not triumphant, just in the midst of a huge challenge and doing what needs to be done. Even when they might be in pain. So here is one of the groups, and this is actually called the biting group, because the Lapith here is the centaur. These centaurs do not fight fair. Look at what the centaur is doing. He's biting him. Who ever heard of that in a fight? These centaurs are animals. They have turned into animals. And the only betrayal of expression is a couple of furrowed lines on his forehead, and his eyes are open a little bit wide, like in a cartoon where somebody has just gotten clunked on the head, and then they go, and their eyes sort of go like this. They bounce out and in. So that's a little bit of the expression on his face. But and you might notice Ashmole makes quite a bit of the additional furrow right next to his nose, as if he's gritting his teeth, as if that really got to him and he's gritting his teeth and reacting. But still, compared to the centaur, who's not only his face is all scrunched up and his eyebrows are all scrunched up, but even his beard and his hair is like everything is working in tandem to be bestial and in motion. And the Lapiths are the eye in the center of the hurricane. They are the calm in the storm. Like on the East Pediment, the sculptors here are pretty interested in contrasts, age contrasts, texture contrasts. So here, the drapery of another one of the Lapith women, and the skin of the body. This Lapith who's defending her, this centaur who's coming in with his horsey legs. Or I guess, yeah, there's some more drapery over him, I guess. That's actually what that is. So you get these very vivid contrasts. Oh, whoops. Why is this a good subject for the West Pediment? Couple reasons. You guys come up with a couple reasons why this is a good subject for the West Pediment. Okay, all in the back of the white shirt. All the way in the back of the white shirt there. Why is this a good subject? What's going on? Just, it's chaotic. What are the specific sorts of qualities on view? All the way in the back there. Why is this a good subject? What's going on? You.
Well, once again, it's based up.
Right, so we've got a relationship to Zeus. That's true.
Could be another sort
Probably so. Probably so. I mean, what's the fundamental difference between the lapis and the centaurs? Yeah, the centaurs are wild. The lapis stay calm. What about the actual action? What's going on here in terms of action?
Centaurs are just dirty fighters, whereas the Lapis are fighting in order to defend themselves, but are being clean fighters.
Yeah, absolutely. The centaurs are dirty fighters, the lapis are clean fighters. They are all fighting. There's fighting. What are some of the Olympic events that have fighting? You guys have your poems? Wrestling, that's one. What's another one? The pankration, right. What is that fight? Anything goes. Yeah, that's that fight. Anything goes. Even the Greeks thought, why are we having this as a contest? It would be the way that some of us think about some of the Olympic events, like that's an Olympic event. That's how I feel about skeleton, for example. Why is that an Olympic event? That's what I want to know. So that's how many Greeks actually felt about that, and that's what one of your poets mentions, that he doesn't really get that one. And that's what's on display here. There are a lot of events in the Olympic Games that are mano a mano, two people duking it out. There's wrestling, there's boxing, and there's pankration. And if you are a competitor at the games and you have stood stunned, absorbing the lesson of the East Pediment, and then walked around to the West Pediment, a lot of that pent-up adrenaline and emotion, you might be able to let it out as you're standing up there, looking up at this pediment, because this is all motion. This is all activity. And like on the East Pediment, it's a cautionary tale. Fight fair, be strong, know what's right, do the right thing. So East Pediment, West Pediment, East Pediment, West Pediment, and then you walk in, and inside, over the porches, 12 metopes, labors of Heracles. You want to turn your hand out over. All right, let's see. Can anybody do this? Okay, I'll do it. This is my favorite thing to do all the times that I teach Greek archaeology. Nemean lion, Lernaean hydra, Stymphalian birds, Cretan bull, Kyrenian hind, girdle of Hippolyta, she's an Amazon, boar of Eurystheus, mares of Diomedes, Geryon, he's that triple-bodied dude, apples of the Hesperides, Kerberos, Augean stables. Yes. Okay. All 12. This is the canonical representation of the 12 labors of Heracles. I mean, is to say, it's turned canonical by their depiction here on the Temple of Zeus at Olympia. 6 on one side, 6 on the other. We're just going to take a look at a few of them. You see immediately that each metope is a specific event. Each metope, in other words, is a moment in time, a distilled moment. It's like a cinematic still. Sometimes it is the end of the labor. Sometimes Heracles is actually engaged. So there is a nice contrast. So you see, going across the top, so for example, Nemean lion, he's done. Lernaean hydra, he's fighting. Stymphalian birds, he's done. Cretan bull, he's fighting, and so on. It's not that banal, so it doesn't go every other. There's this nice syncopation between being in the thick of it and preparing and finishing. Here's the first labor, the Nemean lion.
In the Nemean lion and the Cerberus one, there's that silhouette of that guy with the head.
That's Hermes. Hermes appears, Athena and Hermes both appear 4 times in the metopes. I think that's right. Yeah. You know why Heracles had to do labors? Heracles is the son of Zeus by a dalliance between Zeus and this lovely young lady named Alcmene. And Hera found out, and she was completely enraged. So she really had it in for Heracles. And when he was older and a happily married man, she made him go insane. And in his insanity, he killed his wife and children. And while he thinks about this, he rests his weary head in his hand. By the time of the Stymphalian birds, metope number 3, labor number 3, Heracles is a little bit older. He has a beard. Athena, still rather young, sits perched on a rock, almost certainly Olympus. Heracles is bringing to her, almost certainly there would have been here, probably in metal, the birds, as a token, as an offering. And Athena gently accepts the offering. The old trick of seating the gods so that the heads are more or less at the same level as the mortals works here as well. So Athena, of course, would be much larger than Heracles were she to stand up. Heracles is looking a little bit better here. He's now got 3 labors under his belt. There's more to go, but he has a sense of accomplishment. now about him, and a sense that he can do it. Here you see his face and that of Athena. There's almost the hint of a smile, and this direct gaze. The Cretan bull is all action, two great big X's going across the metope. The metopes are about 5 feet square. So the figures are, just a little bit under life size, but very nicely legible. The bull, in all its power, is stretched diagonally, that the farthest dimension that it can be inside the metope, and so is Heracles. His club is raised high. The bull is coming back around, and you get, again, that great contrast of musculature. Heracles here is about the same age as the Alpheus River. He's a little bit older than the Claudius now. He's growing up. His beard is a little bit longer, and he is in his prime. Actually, the apples of the Hesperides was almost certainly the last labor, but on the metopes of the Temple of Zeus, it's not. The story is that Heracles was sent to get the apples from the gardens of the Hesperides, which are way at the ends of the earth, and only the god Atlas knew where they were. So Heracles agreed to do the job of Atlas so that Atlas would go get the apples. And what was Atlas's job? Holding up the world. Atlas was strong enough. Heracles needs just a little help. And he has Athena, who comes along and with one hand helps Heracles, who's cushioning his back and neck with a pillow to make it slightly easier. And Atlas very calmly is returning. Here's Heracles looking again calm and like he's going to make it. Athena, Atlas. Athena's looking a little bit older too. Even the gods can age some. And the last labor, the Augean stables, which was the last labor on the Temple of Zeus, but it's almost certainly not the last labor in order. And again, Heracles needs a little help. The Augean stables were so filthy that it required the additional help of the goddess Athena, who used her spear to divert the river and funnel it through the field to clean out the stables. The sculptures on the Temple of Zeus at Olympia. Political undertones. The fight between Pisa and Elis in the chariot race. The victory over the Persians 10 years earlier, the Centauromachy. And the primacy of the Peloponnese over the mainland of Greece, because Heracles was a hero of the Peloponnese. Who was the hero that had recently come to prominence in central Greece? Who was the hero of the Athenians? Theseus. Most of Heracles' labors, mythological labors, occur in the Peloponnese. So it's just a little local boy makes good kind of point. Mythologically, first chariot race ever run at Olympia, the race between Pelops and Neoptolemus. The Centauromachy, fighting of various sorts, just like the events that are occurring at Olympia. And of course, Heracles is the athlete par excellence and the founder of the Olympic Games. The first to demarcate the territory of the Altus, the sanctuary of Zeus. Man, in all his physical ages, is represented by the sculpture on the Temple of Zeus. From young teen through adolescence, through maturity, to old age. The groom and the Alpheus River on the east pediment, Enemaus, or Pelops, and the old seer. But you could pick many, many other examples. Man in all his philosophical abilities, from beast to young hero, to flawed. Life may drag us in ways that we do not respond to with our best selves, Enemaus and Pelops, for example. To divine. When you look up at the figures of Zeus and Apollo in the central portions of the pediment, you see man as divine. But when you go inside the temple, you see something even better. You see humanity transcendent. Because Heracles moves from the depths to the heights. From the worst possible crime through patient, resolute labor to the pinnacle. Heracles is the only mortal to become a god. He is allowed to enter the pantheon of the gods at the end of his 12 labors. He is introduced to Mount Olympus. He has a chip of the divine. And the sculptors of the Temple of Zeus seem to say, so do we all. See you Thursday.